First question. Welcome back. Today, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan followed the lead of 6 other states in announcing a delay to his state's primary in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. The governor's latest step to try and stop the spread of a virus that has already infected at least 58 people in his state. Maryland has already closed all bars and restaurants except for takeout orders, as well as movie theaters and gyms. But right now, bars and restaurants remain open in neighboring Virginia, leading to questions of just how effective Hogan's actions may be if other states don't follow. Governor Hogan joins me now. Governor, forgive me if I'm overreading your tone today, but I got the impression you're a bit frustrated with residents in Maryland a little bit. And I say this because I get it. I drove around and coming into the office and my minimal amount of going outside, and there's a lot of people that I feel like are treating this like it's a Sunday afternoon day off.
Well, actually, I was a little frustrated with things that were going on over the weekend with the St. Patrick's Day celebrations, which is why we took unprecedented actions yesterday to shut down all the bars and restaurants and all the things that you just mentioned, because we had put out a directive and a recommendation statewide last week, which almost everybody ignored. And so we made it a directive under our state of emergency that's got the full force of law that we're going to enforce. And I think people are taking it a little more seriously today. And, we've been taking unprecedented action. We declared a state of emergency 2 weeks ago. We were one of the first states in the country to close all of our schools last Thursday. We took more actions yesterday, more actions today, and likely we'll be taking more actions tomorrow as this crisis continues to evolve, as we've talked, not daily but hourly or minute by minute. And we're all trying to just make the decisions as fast as we can to do whatever we can to flatten out that curve.
And I brought up I know nobody wants to backseat drive another state's decision, but do you feel like your order would be more effective if Virginia followed suit?
Well, look, I think some of the things that we took action on, people did follow right behind. So after we did close the schools, half the states in the country, I think, closed their schools. Yesterday, when I decided to close all the bars and restaurants, just a few hours later, the mayor of Washington, D.C. followed our directive. And it certainly would be more helpful if, I don't want to second guess my friend, the governor of Virginia.
No, I understand that.
It would be more helpful for us to control the region if everybody was on the same page. Look, we're all working on this together, and it's really not finger pointing, but I think everybody's taking the actions they believe are necessary to protect the people in their states, and we've all got to work together.
The state of North Carolina today closed down access to the Outer Banks for non-residents, essentially. Obviously, if you live there, you can get there, but again, a sort of another step in trying to discourage sort of public traveling. You've got the Eastern Shore. Have you contemplated that?
We haven't contemplated that, but today we made recommendations. We took pretty serious actions with respect to all of our the MARC train system and MTA and all of our trains and buses throughout Maryland, where we have cut service and restricted access. And we made those recommendations to Metro, the Washington metropolitan area. Again, talking about getting our leaders together with Washington and Virginia. Just in the past hour or so, Metro adopted those recommendations, and we'll be taking some pretty serious actions with respect to limiting the people that are on Metro, which I think is critically important as we're taking people from one state to another and across lines, and we're doing everything we can. These are very disruptive kinds of decisions, but they're absolutely necessary to save lives.
You're having to make these decisions. Congress will have the opportunity to deal with our economic fallout on this. You've heard the idea of direct cash payments as soon as possible. Do you have anything specific you hope they don't forget in these massive packages?
Well, look, I think it's great that our leaders in Washington on both sides of the aisle are coming together, the folks from the administration and Democrats and Republicans in Congress. I think it's a great sign that everybody's working together to try to think about and fix these problems. The governors, I'm the chair of all the National Governors Association. We're all working with our colleagues across the country. We've had 3 meetings in a row with all the governors together on the phone, talking to one another, sharing ideas. I think the steps on the economic stimulus are good. The states are doing similar kinds of things in their states. We're taking action that should be passed today in our legislature to address some of that, but pushing some of those dollars out to the states as quickly as possible, because in addition to the obviously health risk and saving lives and keeping people safe, there's going to be some tremendous economic damage and people that are losing their jobs and unemployment benefits and helping small businesses. These are things that we're all working on at every level of government.
You made the decision to delay your primary. My guess is you won't be alone there in doing that on those series of April 28th primaries. But let me ask you this. I already know there's a bill in the Senate. I'm going to be talking about it later in the show. Are you at all open to implementing all-mail voting, M-A-I-L, when I say all-mail voting, by the way, all-mail balloting for this coming election, at least for the general election?
So our state board of elections was not capable of getting that done in time for our April primary, but certainly we're open to all suggestions. Look, we're trying to accomplish two things. We're trying to make sure that everybody has their most basic fundamental right of making sure we count every vote, which is critically important. But we also don't want thousands of people out there in the polling places when we've, limited interaction, and it's the last thing we need is to get people out, trying to vote and exercise their rights while they're making people sick and it's causing people to die. So we took action today to give us more time to figure those kinds of things out rather than trying to rush a primary when we didn't have participation, and we were actually driving thousands of people into senior centers and schools that we've already ordered closed.
Right.
These are things that we've all got to figure out together in the coming months.
And one last question having to do with preparation for hospitals being overrun. Do you want the military to be opening MASH units, to be starting that planning now for any needs that you might have in your state?
So we last week talked about the fact that, yes, we do believe Dr. Inglesby, who you had on earlier, was talking about some of these issues. He's on our state of Maryland coronavirus emergency response team, along with some other really smart folks from Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland Medical, very, very smart guys that are giving us all the modeling. We are taking steps to ramp up 6,000 additional beds in Maryland on our own and trying to talk about in things like opening up closed hospitals. We need all the help from the federal government we can get, but we're also pushing forward with a Maryland plan, and I've demanded that they get me some answers as quickly as possible about how we ramp up, because even with flattening out the curve, we're going to have some serious demands on the system, and if we don't flatten out the curve, it's somewhat catastrophic, the numbers that we're looking at.
Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, Republican office holder there. Thank you, sir, for coming on, sharing this important information.